Okay, so not too long ago I made the video on making the BoolTool mask. Here I'm using two images. One has got a rusty color under it. The other one's got like a gray metal kind of look. And I'm using the alpha from the second image as a bump. And I'm just playing with a lot of stencil brushes I've made. I was using the erase and add alpha. It gets pretty addictive to sit there and do all this damage with the damage brushes. I'm going to be repackaging them for the 4.3 setup. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to put them together as something that will still be usable in 4.2. I did make a better version of the lasso to mask. It's a two-step process. The problem is that even though you end up with geometry that gives you the ability to paint in the layer of your choice, it's a one-shot thing. So I can't do it again without basically killing everything that's there. So I wanted to show you the mask tool. Keep telling people that it's much more adaptable, much more flexible than what they want. People always say that they want a lasso selection tool like in Photoshop or in GIMP, where you can draw a boundary and it will select pixels. The problem with that is that in Blender, what we're dealing with is geometry. We're dealing with polygons that are then referenced, the pixels are referenced in the polygons, however they're mapped. So here I'm trying to make an interesting mask. Anybody that was into Iron Maiden will kind of like understand where I'm going with this a little bit. Instead of doing the Terminator thing with the robot coming out of the organic, I'm kind of wanting to do an organic coming out of the metal. So here in the two layers, what I've done is I've dropped white into the base layer, and then I use erase alpha on the fill to knock out the same area from the mask in the top layer. And I decided to use my gradient to color ramp manager, and I make a new ramp. I turn on the cavity mask, and I get something to start with. Then I go in and I start darkening things out, trying to give a boundary. Didn't really intend on making it any kind of bloody or whatever, but eventually some stuff does happen a little bit. And I just use the face select masking for the eye. I'm going to kind of paint something that's not quite as scary. I'm thinking kind of like a cyborg kind of thing from like Somewhere in Time. The key to using the mask tool is to remember that you're not limited to using just an image inside your shader between two other images, or in between two shaders, but you're actually able to use a separate non-connected image. Now, later you'll see that I actually end up using it as a connected image as well. So I bring it into the shader and use it to recolor areas. Now, up in the controls there, when you open it up again, you'll see that you can invert the mask. So if you want to affect the pixels outside of what you're working there, you just push the invert button, and then you can paint into the exact opposite area. This is something that I kind of feel like this is closer to like, say, a layer mask in Photoshop, but it's a little bit more adaptable. And the mask tool itself allows you to continue to keep adding more images based on which one you want to do. So I've got this one. I could have technically kept on going and made another mask for another area, or even a mask inside the mask, and then paint something totally different. Yeah, so I know that this is not everybody's cup of tea. I was just playing around, just an idea of what I can do with the mask tool. It's not meant to be serious. This is not a project I would do. If I was going to do something like that, I'd actually model everything out. But I was just having fun. Invert the mask, and then I can go and paint around it. Still on that first layer, so that the top layer is only seeing it through the damage marks that I made with the brush, cutting through the alpha. And here's where I bring in that mask as a separate modifier. I had to stop and start the video because I totally forgot that I was in one position on the mask, and I kept trying to color and I couldn't get it to work. That's because I didn't invert the mask yet. You have to use a color invert. So there you go. Seeing how it works, I realize color invert will get me there. And so there you go. I'm recoloring the area outside on the one image. And then on the other image, I plug it again, but directly instead of inverting it. And then I can change that there, and I'll change the overlay so that I don't lose all the color. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to play with. It's very adaptable. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it.